Caitlin Mariah Video Corporation and Company, an exclusive KMS original commercial production. November 20th, 1910, a date that most Mexicans have yet to forget. This specific day marked the start of the tragic and chaotic revolution that would take over Mexico for approximately 7 years. This revolution was referred to as the Mexican Revolution or Mexican Civil War and is known today as one of the greatest upheavals in the 20th century. The purpose of this armed revolution? To overthrow General Diaz, who'd been a powerful ruler for over 30 years. Prior to the outbreak and start of this war, a fellow named Francisco Madero fled to the United States of America proclaiming a plan called the Plan de San Luis. His hopes were that all Mexicans would stand against and rebel against government rule of Porfirio Diaz in one of the most important socio-political events in Mexico's history. Other groups that participated in this ongoing battle and costly conflict were led by individuals such as Pascual Orozco, Pancho Villa, and Emiliano Zapata. The Encyclopedia for Kids states that, although Porfirio Diaz was thrown from office into exile in less than a year, personal ambitions and lack of a single leadership caused the fighting to extend for many more years to come. The newly elected President Madero had neither the support of his former allies who claimed the revolution goals hadn't been met, nor from the members of the old regime. And in 1913, it was murdered, along with his vice president. Once everyone got news of the vice president's death, Victoriano Huerta took over power and very shortly after was accused of plotting the murder of Madero, which again made the war continue for a longer period of time. Even though a constitution was created in 1917 to help stop the war, violence and rebellion continued to occur periodically up into the late 1920s and early 1930s. Some say that the end of the Mexican Revolution was with the Institutional Revolutionary Party, also known as PRI, which controlled Mexico in the 1930s. The president of the PRI was General Plutarco Calles. This party helped generals to dissolve personal armies and instead join them all together, forming the Mexican Army. This revolution has created a sense of loyalty that has lasted as a tradition for over 60 years. Around the same time that the Mexican Revolution was coming to an end, but still occurring, a different problem started in America: the Great Depression. Most people believe that the Great Depression began when the stock market crashed on October 29, 1929. This day has forever been remembered and known as Black Tuesday. This depression ended up as an ongoing problem up until the year of 1941. Over the 12 years of this depression, an event called the Dust Bowl took place. The Fun Facts website stated that there was devastation caused by changing farming methods and severe drought. This fatal combination created huge dust clouds, which led to the death of tens of thousands of animals and the destruction of over 100 million acres of land. After this chaotic event occurred, it led to a widespread migration, including at least 200,000 people who moved to California, most arriving with no money, no family, or resources, according to a website called thegreatdepressioncauses.com. California then became known as the new land of milk and honey. This was due to the fact that they had better farming experiences and opportunities, as well as rich crops that were grown there. California was sought as a place to relax, recoup, and restore souls, lives, and even dreams. This crisis in the American economy did not only affect the suffering of Americans, but caused desperation and suffering all over the entire world. When the Great Depression started, President Hoover was in office. Many problems that caused the Depression to fall so fast were the Wall Street crash, overspending, overproduction of goods, and unstable banking that all added to the entire mess. Over the time of the Great Depression, 250,000 people became homeless, and shanty towns were set up and referred to as Hoovervilles. No jobs meant no money or income being present in most families' lives. Therefore, cars were towed by mules and horses, all because of the lack of money, resources, and fuel expenses. 23 years passed before the stock market returned to where it was before the crash of Wall Street. Funfacts.org.uk also closed in saying that the date for the end of the Great Depression was dependent on the area. For some, it came at the end of the 1930s. For others, it wasn't until the middle of the 1940s. Two tragic, horrific events occurred at the same time in two completely different places in the world, one in America and the other in Mexico. Most would think that a family would not be affected by the two tragic periods and events all at once, but this is, however, not the case. We see a family affected by both events in a book called Esperanza Rising. Esperanza Rising is a historical fiction book about a Mexican girl who was an only child. She was pampered from head to toe by her wealthy father, who loved her very, very much. Due to the fact that he owned a ton of land in Aguascalientes, Mexico, she for the most part could get whatever that little heart of hers desired, including huge birthday parties every year, as well as porcelain dolls, extravagant clothing, and 5-star quality foods. However, little did she know that her life was about to be changed forever. When the Mexican Revolution occurred in the 1930s, Esperanza's life took a tragic turn for the worse. Many people resented wealthy landowners at the time, and one ordinary workday, Papa was captured by a bunch of bandits and is eventually murdered. Suffering from the hurt of losing her father didn't even come close to the feeling of betrayal she felt when she found out that it was all her papa's stepbrother's plan to take over the land he owned, and that he was in fact the one responsible for killing her father. As if the cruel stepbrother hadn't gotten enough of what he wanted, he threatens to then burn down the house if Mama does not sell it to him. So what do you think happened? You're right. That house went down in flames because Mama refused to sell and hand over the place that her family worked so hard for and had made so many memories in. Out on the streets homeless with not a dime to spare, Mama is then faced to make many quick decisions that will tremendously affect her and Esperanza's life if the wrong choices are made. What is Mama to do? Will she marry the evil stepbrother to get her fortune and life back? Or will she flee the country to California, where the Great Depression is taking place, with Esperanza and the rest of their 3 former servants into the unknown for a shot at a better life? In order to find out how the story turns out, you'll have to read the rest of Esperanza Rising. Go alongside her in her journey and see if she once again can find normalcy and happiness after suffering many trials, obstacles, and tribulations at a very young age. And may the odds ever be in her favor.